Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for another webinar in our Azure webinar series. The topic today will be Prepare Your App Customers for Upcoming End of Support. Before we get started today with content, there are a couple housekeeping items I'd just like to quickly go over with you now. If you take a look over on the left-hand side of your webinar screen, you'll notice you'll see a Q&A window. We're joined today by a few technical experts, and they'll all be happy to answer any questions you have. So the Q&A will work from beginning to end of the webinar, and we'll also reserve the last 10 to 15 minutes at the very end just specifically for a Q&A session where we'll go through the list of questions and get to everything we can within the time frame. If you now look over on the right-hand side of your webinar screen, you'll see a list of resources. So you'll notice that anything you see in the media player, you'll notice you can't click on those links. So we've gone ahead and listed those links out on the right-hand side in the resource list, and you can click on that whenever you like. Below that, you'll also see a survey box. So when we're finished with the webinar today, we would really appreciate your feedback. So if you could just fill out that survey at the end, that is really valuable feedback to us and will help us determine how you enjoyed the webinar and determine the sort of webinars we'll be putting out in the coming weeks and months. Lastly, we often get the question, will the slides from today's webinar be available afterwards? And the answer is, unfortunately, no, we're not able to send out the slides. We will, however, be sent an on-demand recording to the webinar today, and you should be getting that within 48 hours. We're joined today by two presenters, Eric Hudson and Sue Hartford. So whenever you are ready, I would like to hand it off to you, Sue.
All right, thank you so much, and welcome everyone to the webinar today. My name is Sue Hartford. I'm a Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Microsoft. I work on the Windows Server and Azure teams, and I'm here with my colleague Eric Hudson, who does a similar role for the SQL Server and Azure teams. And we are excited to be here today and talk to you about the upcoming end of support for the 2008 and 2008 R2 versions of Windows Server and SQL Server, and how to think about that in your business and how to help your customers navigate this change. So those dates are coming up on us pretty quickly here. SQL Server end of support is in July, on July 9th of 2019, and then shortly thereafter, that's coming for Windows Server on January 14th of 2020. So these are the deadlines that we've been communicating to our customers, and it's going to drive some decisions for them around what they're going to do with the applications and workloads that they're running on these versions, probably many of the products that you sold to your customers over the years. And so that's why we're here today, is to talk about this. In addition, of course, to the software that Microsoft produces or that you produce, your customers are also facing decisions around their hardware infrastructure. Our own research has shown that over the last few years, customers have been holding on to their servers longer and longer, which means it's very likely that they are also looking at some pretty old server infrastructure right now. So I want to just really quickly let you know, what does end of support mean? And what it really means to a customer is the end of security updates. When we shipped these server products, they come traditionally with 10 years of support. The first 5 years is mainstream. It includes new features, security updates, all sorts of updates. And then the second 5 years of that is primarily around security updates. And what are these security updates? These are often monthly updates that we ship to customers, and they should be applying these to their servers to keep them protected. So we have a security response center at Microsoft. We track all the new threats out there, and when we see one that might impact our software, we create updates to help keep those, to close any security gaps, keep those server workloads protected. And as long as customers are keeping those servers constantly updated, they have a lot of protection built into their software. These are a couple of examples of recent critical and important security update issues that hit customers who did not remain protected with security updates. So Petya, Meltdown, Spectre, these are some names that you've probably heard of, and there's many, many more. So that is where security updates come into the server customers world. Now, the reason, I probably don't have to tell you why that's important. When you look at some of these numbers, security threats and attacks are a daily headline anymore, really. And they have major business impact. So it's really an important thing for our customers to be aware of that, 4.2 billion records stolen by hackers in 2016. 20% of organizations actually lose customers and 30% lose revenue. So attacks can have real customer impact on your business. But at the same time, many organizations are running in an industry that is subject to some compliance requirements. So perhaps HIPAA for healthcare, or there's FedRAMP for government, and many, many others. And the one that's new and probably the most far-reaching now is the new GDPR requirements that landed last year. And these came out from the European Union and really apply to any organization that keeps any type of customer data or information about a European citizen. And so these all are potentially impacted when you are running servers that are at end of support, because there are no more security updates being applied to those servers. Now, end of support is not all doom and gloom. What we find is that our customers typically see end of support as an opportunity to transform. And obviously today with the cloud, many exciting new technologies available to our customers. We worked with Keystone Data on a study of organizations, and they went out and they found customers who are very cloud forward in adopting some of the latest and greatest innovation technology from the cloud. And they compared those to customers who have decided not to do that and really take more of a cost approach. And I really don't want to move forward. It's working fine. I'm just going to sit where I am. And they found some real differences in business results, and that these organizations that are adopting modern cloud data and AI technologies are outperforming the other group, nearly 2 times the operating margin, $40,000 more revenue per employee per year, and 50% higher average net income on revenue. These are real numbers. You can see there's a link down here. You can read this report, and it's a great way to help organizations understand the importance of innovating and running on the most current technology and how that has business impact for them. Now, let's go ahead and move forward and talk a little bit about, for you as an ISV, what are some of the scenarios that you are facing and some options that you have now that end of support is coming for these platforms. So first of all, I want to talk to you about the path that we talk to our customers about. And we typically start by talking to them about migrating to Azure. Migrating to Azure brings so many benefits in terms of not just all this new innovation, but just getting into a cloud platform that is a highly stable and secure environment for organizations. Especially for small and medium-sized companies, they often don't even have the resources to really have a security team in place. And so sometimes a lot of organizations say, I actually find the cloud to be a more secure place to run my workloads. So what we would say to you as a customer, if you are running your applications today on the 2008 and 2008 R2 workloads, is bring your apps and data to Azure. We have great options for you. First of all, if you want to bring your app and just run it in a Windows Server virtual machine in Azure, it's easy to migrate that over. And I will give you 3 more years of security updates in Azure for free. That allows you to very quickly beat the deadlines, get it into Azure in a secure way, And then once it's in Azure, you can begin to upgrade and transform there. Either upgrade it to a newer version of Windows Server or SQL Server running in a VM, or perhaps even start to transform that application by using other Azure services to make it a more modern application or database. Now, in terms of SQL Server 2008 and 2008 R2, we have an amazing option for you called Azure SQL Database Managed Instances. And this is an option that you can easily migrate your workload into a version-free option where we manage that for you. We apply all updates, and that means that this will be your last end of support. You will never have to make that transition again. And so that is our recommended path for your SQL Server workloads. Now, customers who make the move to Azure can also use those existing licenses that they've paid Microsoft for. If they have software assurance on those licenses, they get savings up to 55% when they run in Azure. So that's an amazing option for customers who are ready to move to the cloud. Now, we understand that not everyone is there yet, or they have some workloads that they can't take to the cloud for various reasons, and that's okay. We've got them covered. We would encourage the customer first and foremost to upgrade to the latest version, which is Windows Server 2016 or 2019, or SQL Server 2017 or 2019, which is coming soon. Now, if customers can't get upgraded before these deadlines that are coming in less than a year, we will also offer the option to purchase extended security updates for up to 3 more years of security updates on premises. And the cost for those will be 75% of the license of those servers annually. So each year they would pay 75%. And again, the purpose for this, it's kind of a last resort, but we don't want our customers to go unprotected. That would be the worst case scenario. So this is how we've been talking to our customers, and I'd like to turn it over to Eric now so that he can talk to you about options for the ISVs.
Yeah, thanks, Sue. As an ISV, you have a couple of different options to consider. So you can follow the traditional on-premises model of certifying your app to the latest versions of Windows Server and SQL Server, and the customer can work with our Microsoft partners to help make the hardware and software upgrades. Or you can work towards even more operational and financial benefits, let alone compete even more effectively by offering a cloud service. So migrating to the cloud can really give you the edge in terms of driving additional productivity and profitability, and even improving your time to market with your app. And so whether you are rehosting or rebuilding your app in the cloud, you can really benefit from the services that assume much of the day-to-day maintenance that you currently have on premises. This releases time and resources so that you can ultimately focus even more on building great app experiences for your customer. So we're going to spend the next few minutes talking about how you can begin transforming your business by rehosting or rebuilding on Azure. So as an ISV, your requirements are pretty unique. There's rarely a one-size-fits-all approach to migrating to the cloud. However, we've really made migrating to Azure easy, and we provide the options to really help you transition to the cloud at the pace that's right for your business. So whether you're migrating to a fully managed platform as a service, or you're doing it over time with a hybrid approach, we provide a variety of offers and tools to help you through this process, as well as ensure your journey to the cloud is as cost-effective as possible and provide you with the best total cost of ownership over time. And so with the right tools, with the right support, we believe you can significantly reduce your risk and confidently migrate your apps to Azure. So let's talk a little bit about your rehosting options. So first off, what exactly is rehosting? This is basically when you take an existing app and you migrate it to the cloud with minimal code changes, if at all. It's more commonly referred to as a lift and shift. Rehosting is really best for when you want to move your apps quickly to the cloud, or perhaps you want to keep the app, but you don't necessarily have plans to evolve its capabilities or make significant investments to it. Rehosting is also really good for when the apps are specifically architected for VMs or they have specific VM requirements. This will involve moving your on-premises app tier to Azure VMs and your data tier to either something like Azure SQL Database Managed Instance, which Sue had alluded to earlier, if you have SQL Server data, or perhaps some of our open source databases like Azure Database for PostgreSQL and MySQL. Now, for applications that are currently running on Windows Server, including the 2008 versions, we recommend rehosting to virtual machines in Azure, otherwise known as IaaS, or Infrastructure as a Service. You can bring your own VMs, or you can use the marketplace images to get up and running. And you can visit azure.com/Windows Server for more information. And as a reminder, for Windows Server 2008 and Windows Server 2008 R2 in particular, end-of-life mainstream support has already ended as of January 14th, 2015. And we're ending Microsoft support on January 14th, 2020. So it's going to be super important to get ahead of that. Now, for applications that are currently running on SQL Server, including the 2008 versions, you have basically two options. You can rehost to virtual machines in Azure, or we recommend rehosting to Azure SQL Database Managed Instance. We're going to talk about Managed Instance more in a moment, but of the three deployment options in SQL Database, Managed Instance, single databases, or elastic pools, Managed Instance is really the preferred destination for your on-premises SQL Server data, simply because of its on-premises compatibility, its instance-level programming surface area. This really enables you to migrate your data without having to make changes to your app. Flip side of that, when you're rehosting to an Azure SQL VM, you'll continue to manage the VM at the OS level. That means you're going to continue to do the provisioning, the scaling, the patching. You'll also manage the HADR, the backups, and the upgrades. And so with a VM, you get the full programming surface area and all the compatibility benefits, but it's also subject to end of support. And similar to Windows Server, the extended support for SQL Server 2008 and 2008 R2 is going to end this year, July 9th, 2019. Since the database is so often tied to one or more apps running on Windows Server, it really makes sense to consider both Windows Server and SQL Server in your migration planning. Now, while migrating your data to an Azure VM is going to allow you to realize some of the benefits of a managed service, Infrastructure as a Service, or IaaS, is really just that. Microsoft will assume the day-to-day management responsibility for the hardware, the virtualization, and the overall data center management. You'll continue to devote resources to managing and maintaining your OS and ensuring you have the latest updates in place, that you've got your resources scaling appropriately to your workload's needs, and HADR and backups are maintained on a regular basis. Now, to make the best use of your resources, we recommend migrating your data to Azure SQL Database, or I should say your SQL Server data to Azure SQL Database, which is a fully managed, intelligent platform as a service where you can offload those daily administrative tasks to Azure. So Azure will manage the infrastructure, the OS, the provisioning, the scaling, and all the patching so you don't have to. So you're always assured of having the latest features and functionality. It's always up to date. There really is no end of support milestone with Azure SQL Database. And on top of this, our relational database services that are on PaaS, like Azure SQL Database, help to even improve your efficiency and productivity even more because they have built-in intelligence in them that learns, that adapts to your workload. So it really serves to not only offloads some of the day-to-day maintenance of your databases, but also takes it a step further in optimizing the performance and the security for you as well. So really just what we wanted to land here is the point that a managed service can really help you drive additional productivity and efficiency for your business. So let's talk just a little bit about Azure SQL Database. SQL Database is bar none the best and most economical cloud destination for your SQL Server data. It's built on the SQL Server engine, which means it's high performing, it's reliable, and it's secure. And you can use it to build data-driven apps and websites in the programming language of your choice without having to manage infrastructure, because it's a fully managed service. And over the last year, we've made a number of key investments across these 5 areas that really make migrating to SQL Database easy and cost-effective. On one, we help you to save time and resources when you migrate the SQL Server data to a managed instance, because it combines the best of on-premises SQL Server with all the benefits of a fully managed and intelligent service. So if you think about the resources that you would normally deploy to re-architect your apps, you don't need to do that when you can move it onto a managed instance. Microsoft also offers economic incentives, as Sue touched on earlier, such as the Azure Hybrid benefit or reserved capacity pricing, and we even have special pricing for dev test workloads to really help you migrate cost effectively. So all up, you have the opportunity to maximize your migration ROI with savings of up to 80% versus license-included pricing. And this is by combining programs like the Azure Hybrid benefit and reserved capacity pricing. SQL Database also offers a level of breakthrough productivity and performance to really meet the demands of your workloads today and into the future. On SQLDB, we offer a variety of different performance levels to meet the different needs of your workloads. And we even enabled the pooling of databases to help you maximize resources and your investments while maintaining tenant isolation. So this is a really useful for cases where you have a multi-tenant scenario that you are driving towards. And earlier this year, we launched currently in public preview, soon to be GA'd, is our SQL Database Hyperscale. This is support for very large databases that enables the scaling of databases upwards of 100 terabytes. We also allow you to scale your databases up that high and do it in constant time, regardless of the size of the workload. And then finally, we offer dynamic scalability that enables your database to respond very rapidly to changing resource requirements. And you only pay for the resources you need when you need them. So a great story here within productivity and performance for you. SQL Database also offers a level of industry-leading security. This protects your data. It maintains your business continuity with built-in HA and built-in continuity tools that provide a financially backed 4 nines availability SLA. And this is powered by a global network of Microsoft-managed data centers. And then finally, SQL Database has built-in intelligence. And this really helps you to dramatically reduce the costs of running and managing your databases. And it serves to maximize both the performance and the security of your apps. We've been weaving intelligence through our databases for a number of years now. And with the millions of databases that we currently have in service, we have an opportunity to really benefit from that footprint. As our algorithms are constantly fine-tuned by those millions of databases, really helping to optimize your performance and the protection of your data. And while we offer great destinations for your data in the cloud, we also offer a path to get there. Microsoft provides a variety of tools and services to really help you on your journey to the cloud. And we invite you to visit the Azure Migration Center for more information, where you can learn about the database migration service, which can help you migrate databases from multiple sources at scale. Also, the database migration assistant, which can help you through the upgrade process of SQL Server to SQL database. And one final note on the return on investment that you can realize by migrating to Azure. It's easier to support hybrid environments when your server licenses can transfer seamlessly and cost-effectively between on-premises and cloud deployments. And as Sue had touched on earlier, the Azure Hybrid benefit gives organizations the ability to use their on-premises Windows Server and SQL Server licenses with an active software assurance to get reduced rates in the cloud. So this really gives organizations a lot of flexibility in terms of transitioning to the cloud at their own pace in a very cost-effective manner. With the Azure Hybrid benefit, you can save upwards of 55% versus pay-as-you-go or license-included pricing, and you can maximize your investment in Windows Server and SQL Server software and licenses by using this important Azure-only benefit. But you can also take this a step further. You can combine the Azure Hybrid benefit with reservation pricing to save up to 80%. So you can reduce your total cost of ownership even more when you commit upfront to a 1 or a 3-year term on Azure. So reservation can really help you to manage your costs across more predictable and variable workloads. So let's look a little bit at a customer who successfully made this transition to the cloud. Let's touch on this quickly. This is the Dairy Farmers of America. They're a $14.6 billion operation, and they were exploring ways that they can reduce their overall cost to their farmer members and ultimately improve their time to value. So they moved away from their hosted SAP platform, and they migrated the entire platform to Azure with the ultimate goal of migrating nearly all of their IT infrastructure to the cloud, to a managed service. According to Lauren Phillips, who's the Director of Hosting and Network Delivery at DFA, he said that moving SAP infrastructure from a traditional outsourced costing model to an Azure model managed by internal IT resources reduced their costs by up to 30%, which is very significant for a business concern. Now, if you're interested in learning more about rehost resources, we have a number of different resources that are currently available to you on how to get started, how to certify your apps for Azure, and then finally the Azure Migration Center that can provide all of the guidance and expertise at azure.com/migration. Now what I would like to do is spend just a couple minutes talking a bit about rebuilding your app for the cloud and ultimately enabling software as a service. So rebuilding your app in the cloud using cloud-native technologies really yields a number of benefits in terms of unlocking new growth and driving efficiencies through your business and ultimately laying down the foundation for software as a service or a SaaS model. Within Azure, there are a variety of services that you can use, like Azure Functions, Logic apps for your app tier, or database services like Azure SQL Database and Azure Cosmos DB for your data tier. Now, rebuilding is best for when you need to speed your time to market, so you can stay one step ahead of the competition with an always up-to-date app. It's also great for when you want to improve your customers' experiences with cloud-native innovations that help you gain new insights into their usage that you can roll into your app. And then also, it's great for driving operational excellence by driving business agility with DevOps and the latest methods of CI/CD or continuous integration, continuous delivery. And really the benefits of SaaS impact both your business and your operational model. So let's take a quick look at the results of the Keystone Strategy study that Sue had alluded to earlier that really articulated the benefits that ISVs saw as they transformed over time to a SaaS model. So According to the 2017 study, the top benefits of the SaaS model fell into 4 different areas. One is that moving to SaaS helped to unlock new customer segments. They were able to unlock customer segments as a result of being able to lower customer adoption costs and lowering their operating costs by reducing their technical requirements and ultimately reducing the overall cost to serve their customers. A particular challenge that ISVs had was with the upfront capital costs and the configurations that were required for an on-premises installation. And they saw that was creating a barrier for adoption by their customers. Throughout this study and throughout the move to SaaS, they saw that with a SaaS solution and the migration of data and then the rebuilding of the app in the cloud, that there was really little infrastructure that they had to set up and configure. So ISVs were able to realize a lower entry cost or offer a lower entry cost option to their customers, accelerating adoption with their customer base. And the impact that the SaaS ISVs saw throughout this study is they saw an installation time reduction at their customer sites of up to 75%. The second area where they saw benefits was in the reduced complexity and lower customer TCO by removing the infrastructure complexity. Customers ultimately had to help pay for the infrastructure and ongoing support costs. And what SaaS enabled these ISVs to do is to free their customers from that infrastructure management and the support costs by taking on that responsibility by hosting software through a PaaS partner or a cloud partner. So after switching to a multi-tenant SaaS model, one ISV in the study was able to really leverage the scale and efficiency of a public cloud provider's infrastructure to offer the same performance or even superior performance in many cases as on-premises. And they were able to pass on this savings to their customer, savings upwards of 30% of the overall system costs. Third, these ISVs were able to deliver brand new capabilities to their customers by taking advantage of off-the-shelf turnkey cloud-based services. ISVs oftentimes had to divert resources from their own product development in order to augment their app's capabilities. What a SaaS solution enabled them to do by being in the cloud with fully managed services is it allowed them to rapidly incorporate off-the-shelf first-party cloud services like advanced data and analytics, business intelligence, visualization technologies, collaboration tools, and the like into their product offerings. And nearly half of the software companies within the study reported integrating those services into their final SaaS product. And then finally, ISVs on a SaaS model were able to take advantage of all of the data that's available to them in the cloud. They were able to aggregate this. They were able to use this data to develop and optimize the algorithms in their own apps and do this at scale by aggregating across their customers. So where ISVs might not have had access to this data in an on-premises model, a multi-tenant SaaS model enabled them to take advantage of these types of scale effects. What I'd like to do now is give you an example of one ISV who recently implemented a SaaS model for their app. Power Details offers a platform that helps off-duty police officers find part-time security opportunities. They began their journey to SaaS with a data migration from on-premises to SQL Server on Azure VMs, which enabled them to offer a more streamlined cloud service to their customers. Eventually, they found that their cloud infrastructure wouldn't be able to keep up with all the growth opportunities that they saw for the business, and they migrated their data to a fully managed service, Azure SQL Database, by deploying on managed instance. According to Andy Rivera, who's the general manager at Power Details, he said, and I quote, "In the past, we needed to pace our growth," he said. "Now I've gained a level of confidence that we can grow without having to spend money on infrastructure up front. With Azure, we will grow a lot faster than we've been able to previously. If you're interested in learning more about resources available to you for SaaS, we have a number of items available to you, not the least of which is a playbook where you can learn how to get started, as well as a webinar on how to transform your apps with SaaS using Microsoft's cloud and data technologies. And we invite you to check out these resources after this webinar. Now, what I would like to do is hand it over to Sue to talk a little bit more about how you can list your apps on the Azure Marketplace. Sue?
Okay, thank you, Eric. Yeah, it's amazing to just think about the possibilities and the benefits from just running your applications technically in Azure. But I want to talk to you about some of the other opportunities to reach more customers and to promote your applications on our marketplace. So if you go to azure.com today and you click on Marketplace from the menu, you will find that we actually have these storefronts where customers can literally see your application listed. Customers can come in, they can find applications by category, they can search by your name, they can actually try. We have programs where you can do free trials, and then we can actually help them literally buy and deploy right off of azure.com. So it's an amazing opportunity for you to consider reaching a lot more customers who come to Azure and are looking for solutions that they can find in the cloud, whether those are fully SaaS or if they're running in a virtual machine. We literally have two programs. You'll see one is the Azure Marketplace, and that really targets a customer who's perhaps a developer or an IT pro. And if your app is more of a business user-oriented one, then check out the AppSource Marketplace that reaches the business users. Now, this can really turn into a growth lever for your business. So in addition to you doing all the work that you do to promote your applications, we have programs to support you across marketing and sales, demand gen, lead sharing, qualification, et cetera. So I would definitely encourage you to come on and check out the programs here. It's actually available across 141 countries around the globe today. And it's not only just reaching customers, but even just reaching other partners in ways that your applications might be put together with solutions from other organizations as well. And here are a few examples. If you go to the marketplace of what you might find, some of these, for example, let's take the second row in the area of security, identity, networking. These are companies I'm sure you recognize that have been traditionally selling to customers, and they have now gone to the cloud. And you're saying, here is a way that we want to reach customers, especially customers who are working in both the cloud and on-premises. Most organizations are working in some type of a hybrid cloud environment, and so they like working with ISVs who can support them in both ways. And we have a link here at the bottom where you can actually reach out and work with folks in the marketplace to find out more and find out what it takes in terms of getting your application listed on the Azure Marketplace. Now, we've been talking to you a lot about cloud, a lot about Azure, but as I mentioned a couple of times, we completely understand that there are still customers who would like to continue running their applications on premises. So in that case, we continue to offer a program to help you certify your app to run with the latest versions of Windows Server and SQL Server. Now, if you haven't kind of kept up with what we've been releasing over the last few years, this is a great chart to think about from a Windows Server perspective. If you just go back 10 years ago when we were releasing Windows Server 2008 and 2008 R2, It was the very early days of server virtualization, and that's where we were spending most of our time on the technology. And you fast forward now to our most recent versions. We just released Windows Server 2019 a few months ago, and you just look at all of this technology that has rolled up into the latest version. Tons of built-in security that we put in. We came out in 2016. We introduced Windows Server containers. We introduced support for hyper-converged infrastructure. Windows Admin Center, which is a new native set of tools that you can download to manage your servers wherever they run, on premises or in the cloud. And now we're starting to add, this hybrid integration that says if you're running something on premises, you can still connect to the cloud for things like backup and DR. Now, SQL Server, in a similar way, has changed dramatically over the last 10 years, and they as well have tons of built-in security, increased performance, and new BI capabilities, and also the ability to, connect to the cloud, run in the cloud. So these latest versions of software are going to immediately make your applications run with more performance and more security. So we would highly recommend that you reach out to us and work with us on our server application certification program. And this is a very easy program that we can work with you on to literally test and validate your applications to make sure that they run well with the latest versions of Windows Server and SQL Server. And when those applications have passed the validation, we offer a certified badge that you can use in your marketing collateral to help customers feel confident in that fact that your software runs super well on these operating systems and with the database. And we'll also showcase your application on our Microsoft Surface catalog. And you can grab the link off the window on the side there. So I would definitely encourage you to reach out to us and work through this if this is still a go-to-market strategy for your organization. So here's an example of an ISV who recently worked with us on Windows Server 2019. Veritas came to us with their backup exec software. And this is actually even before we launched Windows Server 2019. And so you can come work with us in the early days and make sure that you're ready to go right when we launch our software as well. But they came through the process. They got feedback from Microsoft literally within 3 days and got the logo and were able to start marketing that to their customers. So as you can see on the bottom here, not only are they certified for Windows Server 2019, but they are also certified to run on Microsoft Azure. So definitely a great plan to go ahead and just cover all of your environments so that if your customer wants to run in the cloud, check, you got them covered. If they still want to continue running your software on premises, you've got them covered there too. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us today. I just wanted to, before we leave you with some of our, what I would call maybe the top 4 resources of the day for you to get started. So the first one is our free trial in Azure. Anybody can do this. You can just sign up and get free services on Azure for up to 12 months. And it's just a great way to get busy and get started and give it a shot and see how it feels for you and how easy it is. We also have our End of Support Resource Center where you will learn more about everything we talked to you about today in terms of the extended security updates offers for 2008 and all links to all of our various migration resources. I would highly encourage you to spend some time on that ISV Partner Resource Center. It will tell you everything you need to know about how to shift your business into more of a cloud-based, SaaS-based business with Azure. And then finally, when you're ready to get started and you want to just go ahead and migrate your app over to Azure, we've got another webinar here that I linked to that is a real how-to webinar. And, again, grab your free account, check out this webinar, and just move your app over and just try it out and see. We're finding that, as Eric said, a lot of apps, you can just bring them as is and they run great in Azure. And so if you try it out for yourself, you'll be ready to start telling your customers that, yes, absolutely, my apps are ready to run in Azure or wherever the customer needs to run those applications. So with that, I wanted to thank you again for your time, and I'm going to turn it back over to our moderator.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Sue and Eric, for that great presentation. So I'd just also like to quickly call out that on the slide that we're looking at right now, this CTA slide, call to action, we have gone ahead and listed all of those resources out in the resource box on the right. So you notice you can't click on those in the slide right now. So you can still access those in the resource box. So it looks like we are now reaching the end of our 60-minute time limit today. So we are going to need to bring this session to a close in just a few minutes. But before we do that, it looks like we have had some great questions come through the console so far. So what we're going to do is we will continue to answer those questions, and we will spend the next 10 to 15 minutes going through the list of questions, and we'll do our best to get to everything that comes in within the time frame. And as a reminder, the Q&A today will be completely chat-based. So also, as mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, a question we often get is, will the slides be available after this? And the answer is, unfortunately, no, we're not able to send out the slides, but we will be sending you the on-demand version of the webinar today, and you should be getting that within 48 hours, so keep an eye out for that in your inbox. So again, the Q&A window is open. Feel free to pop in your questions. We'd like to thank everyone for joining us today, and have a great day.